Hi, everybody. Welcome to WarCat, a show about generative AI and the interesting people behind it. I'm Neil Katz, a 20-year tech entrepreneur, and my co-host on this show, Daniel Warfield, a data scientist, author, and educator, helps people understand how to build generative AI applications. Today, we are talking about the big reveal from OpenAI, much hyped. I'm not sure it's that big a reveal, perhaps, as the hype cycle suggests, but I am interested in your point of view, Daniel. What did they announce today, and what maybe impressed you or didn't about the technology that they're talking about today?
Oh, GPT-4o. So it seems like they released GPT-4 for free, kind of, for some
Yeah.
people, and also cheaper for developers, and in a way that is faster and is maybe more multimodal. There's a lot going on. Do you want to focus on anything in particular?
Yeah, just jump in from from the top, like from a technology perspective. What jumped out to you as the most interesting? I know from a business perspective, I saw, hey, twice as fast, half off, like a big like sales sticker on it, which I like because we use GPT-4 in a lot of our applications for clients. But I was also kind of surprised. But like now, 50% off. This is supposed to be the new better thing. Usually when Apple launches something, it's like now much more expensive. But that's, I don't think, the most interesting part of the story. What jumped out from you from a technology perspective?
I mean, honestly, for me, also the cost, right? Right.
Okay,
GPT-4 is mad expensive.
it is.
GPT-4 is expensive and it's slow. And also, I think behind the API, they don't have something called speculative sampling. At least I don't think they do. So using GPT-4 practically is like a really big deal. We were talking a little bit kind of behind the scenes on this, and it really didn't seem like there was a lot that was amazing. I think in a lot of ways, it kind of was like a modern Apple reveal in that it's kind of the same thing, but a little better. Like that was the big
Biggest
takeaway
chip
for
ever.
me. Yeah, exactly. Um, it's faster, it's cheaper. That's super cool. They're pushing multimodal really hard.
Yeah,
I think that's probably a really big shift on the technical level, right? I think we're going to start seeing some big changes as they sort of go to this sort of, actually, that's probably why it's called GPT-4o, omnimodal. This
yeah,
idea that it's not like different modalities that get glued together, but it's like natively designed to deal with multiple modalities simultaneously. I think as we see GPT, or as we see OpenAI shift in that sort of trajectory, we'll start seeing a lot of really exciting things. I think this is the start of something interesting. But it may be like there's not enough. There's not a lot that's super groundbreaking. I think really the big thing is that Google is releasing something tomorrow, right? I think you mentioned that.
like preempting Google's big day. This is like classic business tactic, right? Just crapping on someone else's parade. But there were some specifics here today. They did talk
For sure.
about what seems to be a very improved voice experience. They did talk about being able to do real-time translation in a way that felt very natural and fluid. I mean, it's not the first time there's been products that can translate in near real time. It's certainly not the first time there are products that have voice. Even OpenAI's app experience is voice-based if you want it to be. But it did feel like it almost felt more human-like than I've ever seen it before. And the fact that it was pretty much in real time, that is seems to it's only like a technical difference in a small way in some sense. Like you can take something from like a 2-second delay down to milliseconds, but experientially it feels very different.
Yeah, the reduction of inference time, getting things to move faster, has been a massive point, and there's been a lot of money thrown around at that like
Yeah.
specific topic across multiple companies. So it's cool to see that OpenAI is sort of embracing that and getting towards real time applications. Also, voice synthesis has made massive bounds in the last couple of
Yeah.
months.
Sounded really good.
So yeah, it seems like we're getting away from this idea of, you have human speech and you distill it into text, and then you do a language model on that text, and then you reintroduce it as you use like some sort of like text to speech system or whatever. We're kind of getting away from that and getting towards audio as a modality within itself. I'm not sure if this was like a bug on the presentation or whatever, but the guy, so there was a presentation on GPT-4o, and one of the guys, he was like, he started breathing really heavily, and he asked the model, "Hey, can you calm me down?" And it started talking. It was like, "Yeah, I'll calm you down." And it had a kind of a pleasant voice. I
Yeah.
thought I heard music. Like I thought I heard like
Just start
really,
playing music.
yeah, I thought I heard like subtle, almost like Minecraft music, like do do do, like some like meditation type stuff. I
Funny.
don't know if that was a quirk of the presentation, or if the model accidentally started producing a little bit of music because it's
Yeah.
synthesizing its own audio. I'm not 100% sure, but that's kind of the background of a lot of this stuff. We have a lot of new technology, but we need to start using it in a way that's consistent. And unfortunately, there were a lot of issues during the presentation. They were kind of impossible to ignore.
What jumped out at you? What were some fails of the presentation?
So I don't want to dog on other data scientists too hard. I know how hard it is, right? I'm not trying to dog on
No,
OpenAI.
let's just say amazing tech. We're fans of
Yeah,
OpenAI in general.
yeah.
We use their technology all the time. They do hard things and they bring it to the masses. So let's just put the disclaimer: OpenAI generally makes great products, but there were some glitches in the presentation today. What say you?
So if we're putting that out front, then I feel comfortable saying it was pretty messed up. There was there were a couple of times it really quirked, right? Like you know, taking a picture and then it remembering that picture, and then you having a video of like, "Hey, how do I feel?" And he was like smiling, and then it was like, "You look like you're a piece of wood." And he was like, "Actually, that was the table that I took beforehand." Um, you
Right.
know, like,
So was that an error, or is that? I mean, he handled that very beautifully. By the way, he said, "No, no, no. I'm not a table. Of course, I'm a person." That was from earlier, and it did seem to pick. Once he corrected it, it was able to just carry on with the conversation.
yeah, for sure. And it wasn't too bad. And that they handled that pretty deftly. I will say though, like, they're the data scientists who are working on this, so they know all the quirks and they probably know
Sure.
how to dance around them. The fact that there were this many quirks, I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but if you watch it, there was like a couple. Like there was probably like 5 or 10 pretty glaring ones. And these are data scientists who know this model intimately, right? So they're purposefully trying to phrase things in a way that is the most
Well,
copacetic. Yeah, you give this to the unwashed masses, and
we're
it's
about
probably
to.
kind of a mess. Yeah.
So the AI the 4.0 blooper tapes are about to come out. You're saying over the next couple of days as everyone gets their paws on it.
Oh yeah, yeah, I think so.
So what about there was some mention of they fed it some code. They also sort of fed it a pretty complicated graph, which I thought was interesting. What's your take on that? Like, that's here. I actually bring it up here. We have this was the code. Here was the here's this graph they brought up, and just having played a lot with the multimodal capabilities of GPT-4v, it's really good in a lot of ways, but it does get tripped up when you try to ask it about like specific number points, typically on a chart like this, and it seemed to do pretty well. They might have been coaching it a little bit, but what was your take on this as input and their ability to ask questions about what they're looking at?
Yeah. So when they gave this demo, first of all, that little square on the right, there's a new OpenAI ChatGPT application that you can like get, I think on uh, what is it, on Windows and Mac OS, probably,
Okay.
maybe Linux. I'm not sure, but it's a little window that actually lives on your computer, and that has some interesting capabilities, right? Like if there's a bunch of code that you want to ask a question about, it's not like some browser. You can copy it off of your computer, and now you have an application on your computer that can kind of read that. And also, it can see your screen now. So there's a little toggle button on the bottom left on that application.
Yeah.
Now it can look at your screen. And this kind of gets to the point of like, these are researchers and they know, what is not and again, OpenAI is crazy, right? We're doing cutting edge stuff and not everything's perfect all the time. I thought it was telling that when they asked about code, they copied the code and then they put it into the thing. They copied the text, right? So they didn't show this sort of application. Hey, look at my screen and tell me what's up with this. They
Right.
copied the code and then put it in. And the reason for that is because it's really hard for basically any modern language model to understand a large chunk of text like that. They get confused really easily with that's
Mhm.
not even that much text for a human, but for a language or for a vision model, rather, that's a lot of text to be able to understand. So they, copied it. They didn't use a vision model for that. Then they generated um, an image, and then they showed the vision model an image, a graph, something that's overtly textual. And this is a
Yeah.
little easier for a vision model to understand. So these were the kind of games they're playing behind the scenes to, put this in as a positive light as possible. I've built applications around language models and vision models to do a variety of things. It's
Sure.
not easy. It's really, really not to get them working consistently. So I
Yeah.
think this is, again, the start of a big shift, but I think there's a lot of room to go to actually get the masses to really buy into this and use it on a daily basis.
Hmm. All right. So to wrap it up for this big announcement, what as a developer, as an engineer that's going to jump in here and start playing with these toys literally tonight, is there one thing that you're excited to jump into on the code side of this and start playing around with and see what you can do?
Yeah. So for me, cost. I'm working on like my own research stuff. I'm using something called the genetic algorithm to breed agents. So you have to do a lot of computation to build a system like that. And I've been using 3.5 just because I don't want to, when I'm testing, blow massive amounts of money. So
Yep.
the fact that GPT-4 supposedly has GPT-4 level of intelligence, but now it's smaller, this GPT-4o version, that's really exciting. I also think that, I mentioned it, I think OpenAI is laying a lot of groundwork. It's tough when you're a developer, you spend months of time and investors want to know what's the value added. Sometimes there isn't value added. Sometimes you have to lay the foundation, and I think they're doing that. And I'm expecting that between multimodality, their recent focus on assistance, which is an agentic system,
Yep.
between those two things, I think there's going to be a lot of big growth over the next couple of months.
Yeah, amen to that. I think there were two things that I was surprised that weren't announced today. One, I just thought they would throw in a large token window. Everyone seems to be competing for the largest token window, and I just thought they would, maybe not as the primary announcement, but just lay that in there like, hey, Google says we got 1 million, we got 10 million. They didn't do that today. I assume that's coming at some point. And also, I thought they would do more around agents, since this agentic concept of how to engineer AI applications. And it seems like it's in there, it's in the fabric of what they're doing, because clearly the way it's responding is much more lifelike and it's able to handle more things simultaneously. But they didn't really say much about the agentic story for engineers today, and I thought they might. Anyway, interesting announcement. More to come. Google's tomorrow. Thank you, Daniel, once again for joining me. Ladies and gentlemen, Warcat. We'll see you next time.